All right, I think we'll get started. Again, thank you for being here. Welcome to this month's Drive webinar. We're calling it a master panel of leadership and training. And we do have a phenomenal panel for this webinar. We have Bob Stout of First Automotive, Dennis Goodhue of Diamond G Repair, Travis Sallee of Lawrence Auto Repair, and Kris Bullinger of Olympic Truck. I'll be the host. I'm Tony Whistler. And I would like to start this webinar with some introductions a little deeper. So, what I'd like to do is have each of these phenomenal shop owners tell everybody a little bit about themselves, their shop, their location. And we'll start with Bob Stout. Hey, Bob, how's it going today?
Doing good, Tony. Doing good. Well, as Tony said, my name is Bob Stout. I own First Automotive in Broadview Heights, Ohio, and Kent, Ohio, two locations. Began working on cars back in 1978, so I'm aging myself a little bit. Been a shop owner now going on, I think this will be our 40th year in business. So it's been a journey. It's been a great journey. 10 years ago, I joined Drive, and moving forward with that, I have three adult children that actually circle back from professional careers to come into the family business to carry on the legacy of the business. So very excited about that. I accomplished all that actually through Drive training, bringing my original shop up to the point where I could actually afford and operate a second location, bringing my children into it. And the best thing about the whole thing is that I don't have to be there. I can be here with you folks on this webinar, and hopefully help everyone else along with the journey, because it's truly been a great journey. I have my freedom now, and I owe that to Drive and my children. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for that. And Kris, let's have you do a little intro.
So my name is Kris Bullinger. My husband and I own Olympic Truck Service in Olympia, Washington, and we have two locations here. They're actually in the same industrial park. At one of them, we work on trucks, like heavy duty and medium duty diesel, and the other one we work on like semi trailers and big flatbed trailers. We bought our shop from Dan's parents about 8 years ago, and we joined Drive shortly after that. Um, Dan's background is in diesel repair, so he knew more about the business than I did. And then I have a background in different types of business, accounting, that type of thing. So Drive's training was imperative to me because I didn't know anything about the industry at all. I had the attitude like when we went to like the first class, I was like, does anybody have the problems that we have? Like this can't be happening to everyone. And lo and behold, it was. Everyone had the same type of complaints. So it allowed us, I think, to kind of like sort out what was normal and what was abnormal to our shop. So we kind of had a direction on what to fix. Um, we have three kids that are in school still, various ages, 8 to 18, and we look forward to chatting with everybody today. Or I
Uh,
do. Dan's here, but not on the panel.
Very good. And we look forward to chatting with you as well. And we're going to move on. Let's do Travis Sallee.
Hey there.
Fire away, my friend.
Yeah, so my name's Travis Sallee. I'm from Lauren's Auto Repair in Kalispell, Montana, and my dad's Lauren. He started in 1985, and it was late 2010 when I started the process of moving back home to help my parents retire. And then my wife and I bought the shop from my parents here, I don't know, 8 years ago maybe. We're in a town of about 30,000 people, and our county is probably 110 people. And we do pull from throughout the county, but we're in a small, relatively rural community. Um, the facility we're in, my dad built in 1996, and a couple years ago we expanded it, so now we're 16 bays. And I guess something unique about me is I've never wanted to be a multi-shop operation. I've always kind of wanted to have one world-class operation instead of multiple that struggle. And then I think something that makes us unique about our shop is not counting our apprentices. My technician, my core team has been with me from the newest one is 7 years up to 27 years. And then service advisors, it's 8 to 14 years. So something we've done well is holding on to good people. So
Very
that's
cool.
it's me in a nutshell.
There it is. Thank you very much. And now over to Dennis.
Hey, Tony. Um, I started diamond sheet repair in 1985. Seems to be a common number right now. I grew up on a farm. I was a farmer. I learned how to turn wrenches on the farm and just went from there. Pretty soon there was no more time to farm. We've gone from a one-man band to 16 people now. It's been quite a journey. There's no way I could have done it without drive. When I started drive, I didn't know what I didn't know. So now I know a lot more about it. But the thing that I really value about the business that I have now is the value of my employees, having good people, having them in the right places, rewarding them for doing their work, and watching them grow and take over the responsibilities that I used to have. So it allows me to do the things that I wasn't even getting done before. So now I have a new issue to deal with. I'm starting thinking about succession planning. So that's another issue on my plate now. And probably the one thing that's unique about me than some of the other people is I'm still a supercross racer, even at my age. So I like to go play, and they give me the time to go do that.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I won't ask you your age because that's just not good manners, but you're actually doing Supercross, and that just is I find that astounding. That's really wonderful. And I love that you have the time to do it. That's the thing that matters most. You're running an operational shop, so that's very cool. Very good. Thanks, guys, for that. I didn't miss anybody, did I? I think I got everybody. Yep. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to talk about, guys, and again, this comes from the viewpoint of leadership and training, right? And everything you've done with Drive and outside of Drive. It's about having a clear processes and policies, right? And I would like to know what that journey was from, being, early in your career as a business owner to where you're at now, and what it was, the pain and suffering, but also the good aspects of getting these things implemented. Does anybody want to chime in on their journey on getting processes and policies in place?
Tony, I could start that one. Yeah, smile. About 10 years ago when I joined Drive, I remember in class when they said, hey, we got to start writing policies and procedures. And, at that time, my only policy and procedure was, do what I do or out the door you go. That's old school policies. So moving forward, I didn't have a clue on how to do this. But I tell you, once I learned in class on how to start doing the policies and procedures, it turned the business around. And then moving forward with my children coming in from corporate worlds, they also brought those to our business, which really enhanced it. So it's a very, very valuable action that has to be done, especially if you want to get to the point. I'm sorry?
I think I lost you a little bit there. I think this darn internet. No.
I don't know where I left off.
Just that last little part, I think will do. Just go back a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. And the policies and procedures will definitely help you get to the stage you need to be in order to get to the point where you can actually have a succession plan to exit the business. So it's all pieces of a very valuable puzzle that has to be done. And that help also by doing those policies and procedures, it helps lead you into the dream team. And that's another point that you need in order to have succession and exit planning. So it all pieces together. So it's very valuable to have and to learn. So
very good. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
Yeah. I think without any special training in writing policies, the idea of sitting down and writing policies is like climbing Mount Everest. Like most people aren't going to do it and they're not going to know where to start. And I was the same way. Um, I, th- I, th- I tell people all the time, I think the single greatest service that I've done with Drive is the shop policy apprenticeship because it helps you learn how to write policies, how to make them effective, and how to get them implemented. And I feel like that's where we made some of our biggest gains is when I could take an idea in my head and get it on paper that
Mm.
everybody could see, right? It's documented, and then everybody has a common understanding. And I think once we did that service, because part of it is actually sitting down and writing many policies like that, that's where we really started making our gains.
Yeah, I can see that. And anybody else have any thoughts on that?
So
Yeah,
that,
Tony,
sorry.
there's one thing I agree with both of them said, but the one thing I want to emphasize, especially to shop owners who are starting out and growing and are not here yet, if it isn't written and it isn't implemented, it's a suggestion. It's not a policy.
Amen.
Yeah, and I could just encourage people just getting started going from, we went from, the old thing, like everybody already knows what we're supposed to do, but like nobody does the same thing. And so getting those written down so people can like refer back to them and understand what your goal is by having the policy. You're not trying to like keep them under your thumb. You're just trying to get everybody moving in the same direction to have like the same positive outcome. So, however you have to spin that to your employees to make them understand that the policy is not to like punish them in some way, but to just like keep a goal in mind, whether it be, like 3 years down the road or like a week down the road. You just really want everybody to be moving in the same direction. That way you don't have, oh, well, I thought a QC could be done by anybody. Oh, well, apparently in the policy it says that only these two people, like job positions wise, can do a QC, and there's a reason for that because they have the expertise to be able to do it. So really like naming all of those things that you want to be able to have the successful outcome, in the future is what I try to keep people understanding so they're not feeling like a policy is a punishment.
Oh, very good. And I think that's an important thing, a subtlety that a lot of shop owners don't get is policy isn't a penalty or a punishment, right?
Like
Um,
Travis said, it's a vision,
Yeah.
it's a vision. And one of
your
the,
vision.
And like executed your vision.
Yes.
yeah, exactly. And one of the ways that I coach the value of policy is I say it's an agreement, right? And that's what it is. It's just this is the policy. You look it over. Do you agree with it? Yes, and we're all in agreement. And when you build agreement, you build rapport. And when you build rapport, you build that team esprit de corps. And everyone knows what they're talking about and what they're doing.
I think along the lines of agreement, when you're trying to tackle a policy or get a procedure implemented, I've found it helps if I include my people in that process so they know what's coming at them, and it gives them a chance to, if there's something they disagree with, it gives them a chance before it's in documentation form and you're trying to roll it out. It gives them a chance to provide feedback or different ways of thinking about that. I think that the hardest policies I've tried to implement are the ones where I didn't do that, and then I kind of spring things on them and they don't have any idea it's coming, and it's like, whoa, hey. So including your people when you can.
Yeah,
Very
and
true, Travis. Very, very true.
Mhm.
Um,
Anybody have any thoughts on that concept?
There's
No,
no such thing as a bad policy. If it's a bad policy, it needs removed or changed.
yeah,
Mhm.
you can
And
always change it.
and
Always change it.
it's an ongoing thing. Just because you write down all these policies and you show them to everybody doesn't mean that it stops then. You're constantly growing with it, with your business.
Yep.
Tony, I
And
remember
then,
my first policy was a no cell phone policy. That was a
wow.
long time ago.
Mhm.
That was my very first one.
Yep. And then of course it's the buy-in, right? And one of the things I also have noticed, if you're writing policy, particularly procedural things, and you've been like you might have been in a in a state in the shop where you can go do supercross or you can go fishing, you might come up with a really great policy that is just completely out of whack because you haven't been in your own workflow for a while.
Yeah,
You think? I
absolutely.
mean, you ever had that happen where you wrote a policy and it took somebody trying to implement it to explain to you how it didn't work?
Yeah.
Yes, because I have never worked in the shop, so I have to observe. And like sometimes what I think I'm observing is not actually like there's small like details of things that I may not understand. And like I didn't understand that at first. And so what I was seeing with my eyes wasn't actually what was happening. Like I didn't quite realize, people use like I give them a tablet, but they use their phone to look stuff up. And I'm like, well, why are you on your phone? Well, they're on their phone, yes, but they're not like on their phone. So, you know, understanding that and then making sure they're doing that in a safe manner is always kind of my thing. Like they like to wear headphones and it drives me crazy because I'm like, you're gonna get hit by a truck and you're not even gonna know it's coming. And they're like, oh, well, I have these ones that like connect outside my ears. And so just making sure that like the little things don't get missed because I think that those are the things that help get the buy-in versus, overarching sweeping policies that may make sense to you, but it's like the devil's in the details. As long as you include all those things, everybody can really come to a consensus and get buy-in on that.
Do find that your team comes to you requesting policies written.
Mhm.
We get that a lot because that helps control a lot of possible chaos that can happen in the shop because it puts everybody on the same page. So we always listen and we always review the policies to make sure they're correct. Like my no cell phone policy, like what Kris says, now they use it for actually working on cars. So all that had to change. So you got to be willing to change.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? I would say one of the things that policy does also for your employees is it gives them confidence and certainty that they're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And production can really get harmed if a person doesn't know if they're doing the right thing or not. That can really kill efficiency if they're constantly wondering if they're doing the right thing or they're not going full force to get it done because they're like, well, am I doing the right? Like you wouldn't walk down a trail if you weren't sure if it was the right trail. You wouldn't walk down that trail very fast. You'd
Yeah.
wonder always, did I take the right turn?
Well,
But if
and
you
I,
know you're on the right trail, then you're cooking.
yeah. And I want to give my consultant a plug. I work with Carla. I've worked with her for years, but having her eyes on a policy has been invaluable to make sure it's communicating what you want it to communicate, that it's not confusing. Um, we've reviewed so many policies together, but having that extra set of eyes on it, I think is invaluable.
Yeah. And just for anybody that's not quite sure how the Drive program works, we started out as a consulting firm, and the first services we ever provided were one-on-one consulting, business consulting, and that is still our foundation. And we also have training where we deliver workshops. And there's many, many, many other services that Drive has now that I couldn't list everything, but consulting is where it all began, and all of these people here today have consultants, and they speak to them regularly. And Carla is one of many of our really great consultants here, and she's a good friend. And so that's just so you understand how that functions. And so they talk periodically and go through things and solve problems together and implement things together with the help of their consultant. And that's what that's all about. And Carla is watching too, so that's good to know. So say hi to Carla, Travis.
Hey, Carla. So,
Okay, so now the one thing I was curious about with regard to this is it's always important to have continual training with your team, and I'm sure you guys are doing that. So I'd like to talk a little bit more, drill down a little bit on what kind of training you guys are having your employees do specifically, but I also wanted to find out how any training that you may be doing or any ongoing training that you're doing is affecting how the business is running. Does anyone want to take that one? Yeah, Kris, go ahead.
Oh, me. Bob raised his hand, but I
Oh,
can go
go.
if you want.
Well,
That's
well,
all
I
right.
thought
Go
I heard
ahead,
your voice.
Kris.
I'm sorry. I thought I heard your voice. That's why I said it.
Well, we every morning we have our short 5-10 minute team meetings we get together. And with that being said, and that's when we put out as far as tech trainings coming up. We also do action workshops with Drive. We do master workshops with Drive. So it's just a continual ongoing process because over time, our industry changes nonstop. So we continually have to keep up with training. That just goes with the business. If you're going to be successful, if you want to keep in this business moving forward, it's all about training. You have to do it. There's no exceptions. Kind of like marketing. It's something that you really have to do. So we stay up on the training quite a bit, both management and tech.
Yeah, that's great. And because you mentioned marketing, I want to just a little aside here. How many of you guys have an actual marketing plan that you've written and you have a marketing budget that you've set aside and are consistently marketing your shop? Yep. Bob's hand is up. Dennis's hand is up. Chris's hand is up. Travis, you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think it's possible for any shop to get to the level you guys are at without having something in that like that in place?
No.
No.
No, I agree. Okay,
No,
and
because
then
there's things you have to be doing a month or two in advance. Like if you have a slow period, like we are just coming out of our slow period of January, February.
Mhm.
Well, you can't start in the middle of January and try to solve that problem. You have to
No.
be working back like in November, anticipating the slowdown to make sure that the pieces are going out, that it's out there in the community when you need it to make the phone ring.
right.
Not
And
only
that's all
that,
tracked through the KPIs.
You know,
not only that, if you hire 3 new techs, you better be advertising to fill their need.
Mhm.
That's right, because you're gonna you won't have really good techs for long if you can't feed them.
No.
You know, that's right.
And you have to really, really, like Travis said, you got to be proactive on your marketing. You have to follow your KPIs and see where you're going because your business, I mean, if it drops the next day, putting on an ad that day is not going to help you, so you have to forecast out ahead of time, and that's all done through proper training.
Yep. And I just want to take a little break here, and I want to ask the people in the webinar because are you guys able to actually chat in the chat with the Zoom chat? And obviously, if you can't, I'm not going to know how I'm going to know that because you won't be able to communicate to us. But I want to see if you guys have access to the chat, and I also want to see if you guys, and if you don't, if you have access to the Q&A. And if somebody wants to answer that question verbally, if they can raise their hand, there's a little hand raise. And if you raise your hand, we'll open up your microphone and let you tell us what's going on your side. Cause I'm not totally convinced. Okay. Kevin Reichelt, Kevin, of course, Kevin is right on it. Okay. Here we go. So, let me hold on. Let me see if I can get you. Cause I'm very curious to know, if Kevin, because Kevin's going to yell at me now because Kevin is one of our old school clients. And so I'm sure he's willing to get on me. Let me find him here. Sorry, guys. There he is.
I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted.
Thank you, Fernanda, or whoever did that. So yes, Kevin. So you can speak now. Tell us what's happening on that side of the wall.
We could see the webinar chat if that was a question you were asking.
Yes. Good. Very good. And you can chat to us too, right?
I did earlier. I don't know if you guys could see it.
Yeah.
Yep. I think we can.
So there you go. I just sent a hello. I sent a what's up party people at the very beginning.
And very nice. And Michael Button has a very deep question that must be answered immediately. And that is, he asks, Travis, what is your favorite ice cream?
Mm,
So
he knows
that's
I like ice
important.
cream. I
You're
I
not
haven't
an
eaten
ice
any
cream
ice
guy?
cream in 2026 though. I'm trying to cut back.
Okay, good. Now, thank you, Kevin, and see how he pops in with us here. It's really fun. So, any other questions, Kevin, or anything you want to ask him while we have you up and in the room?
Yeah, you mentioned the consulting group or how it works with a consultant, and everybody in this group is on the top 20 as well, correct?
The panel, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
that's a definitely an added benefit of drive, and what keeps us going as owners and motivated to accountability for each other.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, would someone like to let people who are not familiar with what the top 20 is, give them a little rundown on what that is? Because
Yeah,
people
good.
are watching this webinar that don't know about it, and I would like to have that cleared up
Sure.
for them.
Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
yeah,
The
fire
top
away.
20 is a group of shop owners that meet weekly. Our group meets usually for about 90 minutes. I think some might only meet for an hour, but every week the shop owners are getting together. And then a couple times a month we have the consultant on there. One of the times the consultant will lead kind of the discussion, and the other time they're just kind of more of a participant just to keep tabs on what's going on. But like each week we pick a different person in our group. We have 7 shops, and they're the focus for the week. And so we dig into their stats, we dig into their battle plans, we try to identify what challenges they're going through, and try to come up with a game plan of how to overcome that. A lot of times there's homework or things that that shop needs to follow up on to kind of make things happen. But it's shop owners helping each other. And then a couple times a year we go to somebody's shop. So in our top 20, the general repair, there's, I can't remember, I don't know, half a dozen groups of 6 or 7 members, but we all go to somebody's shop, and you spend a good uh, day and a half in their shop, but you can see how they do things and try to overcome challenges in their market. And you can, as a participant, you come away with ideas and you see how they do things, and you can go back home and tailor things. And then for the host shop, they get people that have had similar training, operate similar type businesses in different markets, and they can get all kinds of input or ideas. And so to me, it's the best of both worlds, because you have your consultant as a sounding board, but you also have other shop owners that are doing things at a high level to be a sounding board as well.
Cool. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, good. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that? All righty. I also wanted to ask you directly, as owners, how the drive training has impacted the condition of your shop. Like, kind of pointedly, like I always love to find out what owners' favorite workshops are. So, anyone want to take that one?
For me,
Go, Bob.
yeah, for now, my favorite succession and exit planning. That's like my
I
favorite.
I think that has to do with your age, Bob.
Yeah, I think so. I just want to throw that out there. But the classes are so valuable to get you where you want to be in your business, because we all have our own goals on where we want to be. So it's just invaluable what you learn to get to that point. I would never own a second location now. I wouldn't have my family involved in the business now if it wasn't for all the proper training that all our employees get from Drive. So it's just a constant feed of training, and it gets you to where you need to be, where you want to be most importantly.
Yeah.
And your
Anybody else?
team.
Yeah.
And your team.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
So my very favorite is planning for success. I really I love making plans like short and long term and like setting goals and like working towards those. I'm getting ready to take it again soon because Drive lets you take them several times. I think this is like my third time taking it. So I'm excited about that. And then second favorite is increasing your profits. I'm not sure if that's what it's called anymore. It's the one where you do go through all the KPIs and like learn specifically what they mean and how that they, like interact with each other. That helps with planning, just knowing kind of like where your KPIs are and how they affect your business.
Yep, that workshop is called how to increase your profits.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great shop. And I have Dan, a great owner and also an instructor for
Mhm.
me. Dan Vasquez generally does that one. And also just so everyone knows, Bob Stout is one of my instructors too for Drive.
Great.
He's great.
I recently took one of Bob's classes. He was pretty great. Shout out to Bob.
You, Kris.
Yeah,
You get
very.
an A in the next class.
There you go.
Thank you. That's what I was going for.
Exactly. Anybody else have any thoughts on their journey through the training side? Because obviously, it's essentially began as training and coaching, right? So those are the two pillars that it began with. We've talked about some coaches who are wonderful and how coaching is helpful, and now we're talking about training. Anybody else want to chime in on the training side of the program? Go, Dennis.
So I'm old school as well. I started with Drive when we used to have these 3-day seminars. The seminar, you would go to the seminar and they're going to tell you everything you needed to know how to run a successful business in 3 days. And actually, they did that. But could you retain any of that and implement it? No, it's very difficult. So that's when I was convinced to sign up with Drive, continue the journey. The most valuable course I've ever had, and I've taken it numerous times. It may not exist, but I think it does exist in some forms, is a communication course.
Yep.
And the communication course I took so many times, you have to understand that communication is the basis for everything you do. It involves your customers, it involves your employees, it involves your family. It just, if it's not done correctly, none of the other training works.
Yep. That was a great course. I love that course, and I used to instruct that course as well. Yeah, that's wonderful. Anybody have any other thoughts?
Well, I think, regardless, or whether it's the training classes or Drive as an organization or sitting down to write policies, I think what all those things help you do is to gain clarity in your business. And without clarity, you're really it's really working against you, right? You can't communicate what your vision is if you're not clear on it. And before Drive, I think a lot of shop owners, they don't even know it's possible until they start getting around people that are doing things at a higher level than them, where they can see it or they hear the stories. Um, and it's like with the classes, it puts your attention on like one specific topic or one specific challenge, and it helps you to get clarity in that area. But like when you're sitting down to write a policy, you can't write a policy if it's ambiguous. Like you can't do it. And that forces you to, okay, what do I want here? What is it that's going to make a difference? And it kind of forces you to get clear on what you want. And when you're clear, then you can actually communicate it to people. And I think that's where you start picking up some momentum is people can buy in. If they hear what your vision is, they know you're actually going somewhere and they can envision them in your bigger goal. But when things are ambiguous, uh, it's hard to know where anybody fits in or what anybody's doing.
Right.
I think clarity is the key. An old consultant, Jim Smith, talked about like in the absence of communication creates a vacuum, right? And people
Mhm.
start inventing things and they try to come up with answers to their own challenges. Whereas if you know what you want and you're able to communicate it, that's where I think the leadership takes a big step forward.
Yeah,
So
I get that. It creates a mystery too. Like it's that vacuum is like, and like you said, they'll invent their own policy. People will invent their own policy if there's not policy to cover it. Because they're
absolutely
trying. And why do they do it? They do it because they're trying to solve a problem.
right. And then as the owner, you're thinking they're doing one thing and they're doing something completely different. You have a misalignment of goals, and you made figure it out. You may not, or it may take you a while, but that's all lost time of being able to work as a team.
Yep.
So, and I
Yeah.
think that's part of why we've been able to keep people a long time is trying to make things clear, helping them see where they fit in and how they can win, right? Like nobody wants to go to work and just have a constant uphill battle where they're fighting against the owner, they're fighting against the other employees. Like they want to come in and be able to make good money without headaches and go home happy, right? And so
Yep.
the easier you can make that, I think it's a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah, that's great. Very good. Anybody else have any thoughts on the training side of drive?
I just have like one final thing for people that are new and might be struggling because like as we sit up here, I remember when I first started drive, I you feel a little bit helpless or hopeless because like I've been with drive now for 8 years and these guys have been for a long time as well. This isn't something that like you don't just get a whole bunch of policies and you don't just like get leadership skills and get all of that. You kind of pick away at it slowly, and your shop becomes successful over time. I think that that's one of the key things that, like with the training, you learn about these things in like digestible steps. It's not like today I'm going to write 100 policies and everyone is going to follow them and it's going to be awesome and perfect. You might start with like, I think that my first coach started me off with like, okay, how do you want people to answer the phone? And so like that's what I wrote down. And that was like my first policy that we implemented, and it was slow and not everybody did it right away. And you just keep picking away at it. And if you hear someone, you're like, oh, hey, did you need another copy of the script? You don't like yell at them. You just, here's the script. Let's try to use this every time. So, like that consistency, like holding people accountable a little bit at a time and like working towards being successful a little bit of a time is like, has been the key for me. And not trying to just be like, okay, well, Travis and Bob's and Dennis's shops are amazing. I want to be just like them, and I'm going to do that in 6 months. This it's not that's not a realistic goal, but really like the planning for success, like making long-term plans and having like digestible pieces where you can be like, okay, my employees, like I'm pretty sure that we can get all this done and we've talked about it. These policies are something we can roll out and everybody agrees that they're good and we're going to be moving in this direction. And then I really want to work on increasing our profits. So you take a class and you learn how to track that and all of those things. And then you can be successful at that because you know how, because somebody taught you how, and you can check back in with other successful shop owners or your coach or whatever that looks like for you and make that happen. So like it's not just like drinking out of a fire hose. It's the training allows you to learn things and implement them in bits and pieces.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. And anybody have any thoughts on that?
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You do. I mean, I
Sorry,
can't.
I talk like a lot. It's just a lot.
Well,
But
I'm going to add to it, but that's a high bar.
That's a high bar to get over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But definitely, you got to take chunks out of it, and yes, it does take time. I'll be honest; it took me 10 years to get to the point where, you know, things are running, and I call it 360 degrees of business. So, with everything in place and everything functioning, it's 360 degrees rotation, just constantly rolls on a daily basis. Just yesterday morning, when we had our team meeting at our new location, we owners break even's been hitting weekly, and all the margins are right where they're supposed to be. And the first thing I said, that's telling me that we're a good team and everything is working the way it's supposed to work. And there's nothing but smiles. So it works. So
and like we're
sorry,
a work
Kris, I
in
couldn't reach that
progress.
far.
Yeah.
Like we're a work in progress. Like sometimes we meet our owners break even and sometimes we don't. And like when we don't, like
That's
what's
normal.
the plan? Like it
Yeah.
happens. It's not
Yes.
like it's been 8 years and we're not perfect. And like you have big bumps in the road, small bumps in the road. Like sometimes things might go to heck for 6 months. And then, but it's like how you recover from that
Yes.
is really what makes your business strong and your team strong. Sorry, I'll
No, it's
No,
great.
That was wonderful.
I
you're
think
great.
I think along
Great.
her lines of, you're doing this little by little.
Mhm.
I think it's important to be sharing that stuff with your employees, like what you're learning and how you're adapting. Um, you can't write 100 policies in a short amount of time and expect to dump them on your employees and have them stick. Usually your policies, you're writing them one or two at a time, right? And you, you might as well work on getting those out into with your employees so they can be digesting it as you're going versus trying to eat the entire elephant at one time, right?
Mm.
Where you got too much coming at them, and then they just tune out because it's unrealistic. I think if you share what you're learning, you're sharing how you're growing and adapting. I think that helps the employees see where your mind's at and what you're focusing on. And then if you can work the policies in or the procedures or any of that stuff, I think that's how you start building that consistency because becomes part of your culture, right? It's not we have a shop meeting 4 times a year, maybe, if we can make them happen, right? Versus, hey, every Wednesday at noon is our shop meeting, right? And everybody knows it and everybody plans their day and we plan our week around it. And, that's our time to come together. Like it becomes part of your culture. Anytime you can keep things in, like it works to your advantage.
Very cool. Yeah, very nice. I just want to make one announcement to the attendees. I'm going to launch a little poll right now, and it'll be here. You can just fill it out at your leisure while we're continuing. I don't want to stop to have you guys fill it out, but if you can just fill it out at some point while we're rolling along, that would be good. If you're okay, if everyone's okay with that.
That's great.
So I just sent it. Um, One of the things I also wanted to talk about, and this is something that is an incredible skill for any leader and who leads a team of anyone, any human beings, is the ability to create real accountability within the team. And I would love to know what your best practices are, or what I'd call secret sauce to getting your team highly accountable. Anybody want to chime in on that one?
Here, I'll
I mean, I think,
start.
yeah,
Travis,
okay,
go
let's
ahead.
go. No, go ahead.
Um, we all talk about looking at our statistics and all of that, and it's good. You figure your statistics, but you also have to share it with everybody because it's not yours; it's everybody's statistics. They need to know as a team how they're working together, um, and then the value of every employee. It's not one person who's carrying the ship. Every employee plays a part in the team and in the focus and the direction you're going. So when they do those things, you also have to reward people for a good job. And to me, that makes them responsible. It also makes them active. Like, look, I could finish this job and make a whole bunch more money this week. So it increases their drive and their consistency and their desire to do it.
Exactly. You always want to reward productive and good behavior. And
Right.
and y'all and I've seen some shop owners that aren't very well trained at times. They'll tend to find ways to penalize productivity, or worse than that, reward non-productivity. I don't know if you guys ever experienced any of that early in your careers, but any thoughts on that?
That's, I think, one of the most important things you can do as like the owner or manager of any business is, when you set goals, you want to make sure that you're rewarding the steps or like the actions that you want.
Yep.
So like when you set like say an incentive for somebody, you want to really, and then you need to like test that though. So like in your mind when you're setting this all up and you ask everybody and get everybody's input and put together a program, and you have like all these really good intentions and then you implement it and it's not quite right. Like you're not quite rewarding the thing that you wanted to reward. So like there's not like a way around it where people are cheating, but it's
Mhm.
not quite like you're like, okay, well, if this happens, then the reward doesn't kick in, but they're still doing that. And so you want to make sure that everything is set up to your plan, like the planning for success. It's like my favorite thing. Um, so you need to be the first one as the leader to be like, okay, this isn't exactly what I thought it was. We'll keep doing this because it's rewarding some of the good things, but let's just kind of change it up a little bit. What do you guys think? And then, make it happen so it's just perfect, like just right. Like you want to have a higher tech efficiency, and that's really what you're focusing on, and your, build hours. You want to see those raised, and you want to make sure that you're really rewarding the things that make that happen rather than, okay, focusing on something else that like okay, well now they have 100 hours this week and like 22 hours this week, like the up and down swing. You want to reward things that even that out, or whatever your goals are. You want to make sure that you're rewarding those things specifically.
I think
Yeah.
one of the more powerful tools is the hat write-up. I don't know if we still call them hat write-ups, but
That works.
it's
Old school.
more than just a job description where you're saying do function A, do function B, do function C. Um, One of the big breakthroughs that I had was when I was working with my consultant was addressing she called it the beingness of the employee. Like,
Mhm.
where do you want their head at when they're doing the job? Like, what do you want them thinking about? And being able to put that in there, like when you step on the shop floor, like this is what you're thinking about, like, and you spell it out for them, it makes it easy on them to know what's expected of them. And then something that you can put the statistics or the metrics or the things that they're going to be measured on in there. That's helpful. Put a section on you'll know you're winning when, right? And you spell out like if you're doing this and you're doing this and you see this across the shop, and like you'll know you're doing this job at a high level when you're doing these things or you're getting these results. And I think that is powerful. Your competitors aren't doing that. I can tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. And anybody else have any thoughts on that? Because I'd love to hear some amplification
I
on that.
totally
Yeah.
agree with Travis on that one. I mean, sorry, Dennis, your employees need to know what's expected of them. Because they don't know what they don't know. They can't read your mind. So as a shop owner, when you come into your shop, if you're not there for a little while and you come in and everything's just functioning the way it's supposed to, your efficiency goes sky high and makes them accountable for all their actions. Just like we post our numbers on our breakboard. Everyone knows every week where they're at, tech efficiency, everything. And it actually becomes a game for the techs because they can see if one guy's slacking, they'll start riding them, whatever it may be, and becomes a game. And as a shop owner, if I got to write a bonus check, I am happy, happy, happy. I mean, why wouldn't you be happy about writing somebody an incentive check for making your shop what it is? So.
Yeah, and everybody, I know there are probably some people listening who might be in some cash flow trouble or having some difficulty, and they're just cringing at the idea of writing a bonus check. And I'm thinking, and I think you can amplify on this all you guys want, but I think that if you're writing a bonus check, that means that they earned you some income and you made money,
Absolutely.
which is the thing you have to remember, right? Any thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
No, I love that. Actually, I wrote down what Travis said too. Like, that's just a good thing about Drive is you get other people's input and you can use that in your own shop. But yes, I love a bonus check.
Well, I think to take that hat one step further
Did I-
is when you're trying to hire people, right? And before they even accept the job, you can push that hat across the table and say, this is what we're looking for. Can you do this job? You get their instant reaction. Most of the time, it's great because they've never seen something like that. But they can, from day one, they can already win, right? Like they already know how to think. They know that you've got a longer term vision of helping them win or helping them be successful. And I think that's a huge tool for when you get somebody great shows up answering a job ad and you actually get to talk to them. how you can communicate what you're all about.
Very cool.
So to add to that, that is a management skill. And most people who are in business need to be managers or they have managers. So what's against you is employees don't want to be managed. Who wants to be managed? That's not what the desire is. But if you set that clear expectation and explanation in front of them, they don't take it as being a managed employee. They already know what's expected of them before they ever get started.
And they manage themselves,
That's right.
Absolutely.
which gives them autonomy and gives them a feeling of freedom, and it gives them a feeling of purpose.
So
Gives
you
them
know
a
what my
little
first
ownership.
policy was?
What's that?
Do your job so everyone else can do their job.
Exactly. I love it.
Well,
Now
you
we've got
want people to own their jobs, right?
Mhm.
And
right.
that puts them in a position to kind of know how to own it and take that responsibility and to make the things happen that they're responsible for. They're
Yep.
not sitting around waiting to be told what to do
Right.
because it's not clear and I can't do anything else until somebody comes and tells me what to do. That's a rough spot to be in.
That's
But if they
painful.
already know, like, this is how the work shows up, or this is what I need to do to turn it back in, or this is like, I can't get paid unless I do whatever. Like, that's important information.
Mhm. Mhm.
The beautiful thing too is as you move forward in your career and your goals as an owner is when you have those quality trained employees where you can actually empower them with your hats that you've been wearing so you can actually enjoy your life in your business. That's the beauty for me.
Wonderful. Well, we're getting close to the end here. If anybody has any questions, they can put it in the chat and we can do a little Q&A at the end here. Or we can bring you in and you can actually ask it verbally, however you guys want to do it. If anybody has any questions, let's throw it out there. If any of you guys have any final thoughts on this subject, I'd love to hear from you now. It would be wonderful. And we'll look and see if anybody has any questions as well.
I just want to say one thing, Tony. It's an
Yes.
honor sitting with these folks on this panel. It really is.
That's wonderful.
I've learned a lot from many.
I think that's
Absolutely.
you all deserve a great deal of respect in my estimation. And I do find that the people that are in this industry are just amazing people. Like I've so many of you are just all decent folk. I don't know that I haven't worked deeply in the the attorney industry, but you know how they have such a bad reputation. But I just know that this is an industry that every single person I've met in this industry has been wonderful, and that says something about the industry too. That it's just really great. I have Javier asks, please elaborate on what Travis said last. So I'm not sure what the timing on that is, but maybe we can get a little more clarification on that. Or maybe Travis can just elaborate on his wisdom for a minute here.
Well,
Putting you on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot.
well, the hat, the idea is a lot of roles are kind of known by the hat they wear, right? So a fireman wears a certain type of hat, a chef wears a different type of hat, but you would know it. If you saw the hat, you would know what their role is. The hat is kind of a written guide on how they do their job. So it may refer to policies, but it's not written exactly like a policy is, but it's not just spelling out the functions they have to do. It's giving them the bigger picture, how their role fits in with the greater operation, right? Um, it may include stuff that if you don't do this, it prevents somebody else from doing their job. You can spell that out. Um, but I think the standard, not just in our industry, is a job description. This is what the job is, and it kind of is more function based. And I think the big thing for us was addressing how you want them thinking, where you want their mind, um, what is it it's important that they're looking at or paying attention to, right? So like I have one, our shop is right next to a sports bar. And so I have a role in our shop. It's called a shop helper position. Well, the sports bar's hours are almost exact opposite to ours. But when we show up in the morning, there could be beer bottles or garbage or whatever from the night before. And our customers kind of have to drive through some of that to get to ours. Well, if it's out there, it's reflecting bad on us. So like the first function is walk out there and see what's laying on the ground and pick it up. Even if it's not our garbage, it doesn't matter. It reflects on us. And then like they walk in through the driveway as though they're a customer, right? If there's weeds in the flower bed, that's just something small that you might naturally overlook. But if you're looking at it from a customer, okay, this is going to reflect bad on them.
Very
Like
good.
little things like that.
Yeah, thanks. So Danny asked if we're going to be replaying this. Yes, it will be posted on YouTube and Facebook if you want to watch it again. And then also, basically, Javier, yes, you have to have a clearly defined write-up for the job. It is, but like Travis was saying, it's deeper than just duties. It's
Yeah.
the whole package of what the responsibility of that job is, right? And so
Yeah.
that's that.
And when you're just starting out, listing out the functions may be all you have in the beginning, but you got to start somewhere. But you can't leave it there. So as you're writing the policies that impact a person's role, you need to be incorporating that and expanding that hat. And
Mhm.
over time, you will get to something, called a full hat, where it's almost finished, right? You just kind of have to update it over time just to stay current, but it's hitting those high points, right? But
Mhm.
without having policies written, it's a little bit of a challenge to hit everything on day one. So start with the functions and just make a commitment to constantly updating it.
Very good. Any last thoughts before we call it a day? Because I think we're at the end of this nice webinar. And any final thoughts from each of you?
I think the biggest thing is no matter where you're starting, you have to start at a starting point. You can get to wherever you need to. Apply the practices, get the help you need, and just learn to grow with it.
Very good. Thanks, Dennis. Anybody else?
I I know most of the people on here are probably already consultants. There might be some that are they're already in the program, but there might be some that aren't. And I can't speak how, I've worked with Drive since 2010, and I know I wouldn't be where I'm at without Drive, because they've helped me achieve these things along the way. And I can't encourage people enough that if you're not working with them, you should be. Like nobody has all the answers on their own. And having the consultant or having other shop owners to get a vision, to get ideas from, like it's invaluable. So
Beautiful.
To elaborate on what Kris said earlier, is that we all share the common problems. Um, Pretty much all the same in the industry, and Drive really helps you get over those problems, and networking with great folks with the same problems definitely helps. So then it's not just me. So, and that's a huge help. So Kris, you brought that one forward, and that was awesome.
Very nice. Kris, any final thoughts?
Just kind of what they've been saying, like you have to start somewhere, just start picking away at it little by little. Don't like stop when things get tough. When things get tough, just keep going. Like that's really, you can only go forward out of stuff. You can't like stop and I mean you can like let yourself feel bad for yourself like for a day or two, but then you just have to keep going. Like really that's the only way forward, obviously. But like our shop has had a tough couple of years and like this year I made a long list of goals, really, really small ones and really, really big ones. And I keep like literally my list is like right next to me. And the first one is like, what is the why? Like, why are we here? Why are we even doing this? And so that keeps me moving in the direction that I need to keep going in instead of getting distracted by other things or things that I might think are important in the moment, but like focusing on the long term and just picking away, getting back to where we need to be.
Very cool. Okay, well, I think we're done. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
You.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
hosting
Thank
it,
you
Thank
Tony.
guys for being here on the
Good time.
panel. You guys, your valuable time, and I really appreciate you guys being here. And we will have another webinar next month on April 29th. And just look for it because it's coming. And that's all I have.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Tony and Carolyn, for putting it together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Awesome.